It's one of the only instances in the entire rock timeline where the band, the song, and the debut album all share the same title, Bad Company. It's a song that stands as a quintessential anthem of mid-1970s hard rock, a song forever entwined with the band itself. It's an outlaw tale, a dusty, atmospheric embrace of a rebellious identity and a rejection of societal norms, with a slow burn progression and a no-frills arrangement that served as a counterpoint to the psychedelic musical excess earlier in the decade. It made the supergroup Bad Company an instant success, a song with such attention to the vibe that Paul Rodgers' powerhouse lead vocal was recorded out in the middle of a field under the moonlight, on purpose. And would you believe the band, the song, and the debut album were named after a book about Victorian morals? Let's get into the story of Bad Company in this episode of the Behind the Song podcast. And if you like it, give it a thumbs up and hit subscribe, and let us know in the comments. First, a little backstory about the formation of the band Bad Company. The band were formed in late 1973 in London, driven by Paul Rodgers' desire to start a new musical venture following the breakup of his previous band, Free. He and Free drummer Simon Kirke formed a collective with Mick Ralphs, guitarist from Mott the Hoople, and Boz Burrell, bassist from King Crimson. All seasoned musicians from successful English bands. This background is crucial, not only because it highlights their collective experience, but it also got Peter Grant to pick up the phone when Rodgers called him, asking him if he would like to manage the new group. Grant, of course, was the legendary manager of Led Zeppelin, a fearsome, canny manager who wasn't afraid to swing a bat at promoters when it came time to pay up for the gig, a guy who drove hard bargains and totally championed his clients. Grant and Led Zeppelin had also, around this time, launched the Swan Song Records label, their own, and Rodgers asked on the same phone call if Grant would also be willing to release his new band's albums. Grant asked to come hear the band, sat in on a rehearsal, and signed them up for a management deal and a record deal with Swan Song. Bad Company's debut album was released in May of 1974 in the UK and in June here in the States. A challenge did arise early on, one that seems surprising now after all this time with Bad Company in our collective ears. Others at Swan Song thought that Rodgers' chosen name for the band was terrible, and some tried to get it changed to something else. But Rodgers' conviction about the name he chose was unwavering, and ultimately, with Peter Grant advocating for his overall vision, the name Bad Company prevailed. While many think that the name comes from the 1972 film Bad Company, a Western starring Jeff Bridges, Rodgers has said that it came from a book about Victorian morals that he remembered from his childhood, about making good decisions and staying away from the dangers of unsavory company. Either way, naming the band Bad Company and titling the album and the title track after it turned out to be a pretty smart move in the mid-70s, because rock fans certainly appreciated the rebellious spirit of it, the eternal allure of the outsider. Everything about Bad Company's debut was intentional. The music was straight ahead, no frills, a deliberate artistic choice made by the band to go for raw authenticity as opposed to showy production or technical wizardry. Mick Ralphs has said that they really wanted to emulate the MGs with Otis Redding, and their first rehearsals were often spent playing soul and blues covers. With this kind of natural musical foundation laying the groundwork for Bad Company's sound, they ended up with songs that really stood in contrast to some of the more complex stuff that was flying around the record stores in the mid-70s. It was raw, bluesy, hard rock, meat and potatoes, that found an audience with folks who were itching for music that sounded grounded and real. Just because it sounded simpler doesn't mean it was. These were all established players with proven track records who made a sophisticated choice with the raw sound of this band. Interestingly, the song Bad Company was co-written by Rodgers and drummer Simon Kirke. Rodgers and guitarist Mick Ralphs primarily took the reins for composing the band's overall material, but this specific collaboration between Rodgers and Kirke turned out to be gold. Rodgers never wanted to be the sole writer in the group, believing that having it be a collaborative effort would contribute to their overall strength. When it came time to record the material that they'd written for their debut, the connection with Peter Grant and Led Zeppelin came in handy. Bad Company's debut album was recorded at Headley Grange, the Old English estate, where Led Zeppelin had recorded Led Zeppelin III, Led Zeppelin IV, and Houses of the Holy, and it's where they would return to record Physical Graffiti. One of the benefits of Headley Grange was that the band could live and work in the same environment, no distractions. The whole album was recorded in about 10 days, using Ronnie Lane's famous mobile truck at Headley Grange. Ronnie Lane bought the truck after he left the Faces in 1973 to use on his farm in Wales for his own solo albums. It was a 16-track studio and an Airstream trailer, which is featured on the cover of Lane's One for the Road album, by the way. So, with the mobile studio parked at Headley Grange, Bad Company had a unique recording environment that was a deliberate artistic choice, with the drums set up in the hallway and guitars out in the living room, according to Paul Rodgers. It all mattered to the sound. And in chasing a specific vibe and sound, here's an interesting note about how they captured Paul Rodgers' vocal, one of the most important parts of the song Bad Company. His vocal mic was placed way out in the field beside the house, late at night underneath a full moon. The physical space around the microphone gave it a natural reverb, and you get a sense of vastness and isolation when you hear that vocal. It's a sonic characteristic achieved by design, perfectly complementing the lyrical theme of the song, Outlaws and Destiny. In that way, the recording environment they cobbled together was an active participant in the sonic character of the song Bad Company. It wouldn't be the last time they used Ronnie Lane's mobile studio. Bad Company again used it on the Straight Shooter album, and other albums recorded with it include The Who's Quadrophenia and The Who by Numbers, along with Led Zeppelin's Physical Graffiti. For the song Bad Company specifically, Rodgers contributed vocals, guitar, and piano. The piano is crucial, building the dynamics of the song with Rodgers' voice and distant cymbals before the rest of the band slowly joins. And the lyrics start like this. Company, always on the run. Destiny is a rising sun. I was born 6-gun in my hand. Behind a gun, I'll make my final stand. That's why they call me Bad Company, and I can't deny. Bad Company till the day I die. Paul Rodgers himself described the song as having a Western vibe and an almost biblical, promised land kind of lawless feel to it. As this song builds, the choice to bring on the instruments gradually makes it more intense when the full band arrives. In that way, the music itself is like a character in this outlaw story. It goes on. Rebel souls, deserters we are called, chose a gun and threw away the sword. Now these towns, they all know our name. 6-gun sound is our claim to fame. I can hear them say, Bad Company, and I can't deny. Bad Company till the day I die. Then comes the instrumental break and the guitar solo by Mick Ralphs, an exercise in impactful simplicity. It reinforces the story without overshadowing it. Back to the chorus, and then the outro of the song, with Rodgers seemingly riffing a little bit on the lyrics as the song fades. Said I'm young and I'm free, but I'm bad company. That's the way I play. Dirty for dirty, somebody double-cross me, double-cross for double-cross. We're bad company. The cold wind blowing. The story goes that the last line, the cold wind blowing, was improvised that night in the field at Headley Grange because it was literally cold while Rodgers was singing his vocal take. Art imitating life, so to speak. Taking such deliberate care to capture this song the right way, to record this outlaw tale that would bear the soul of the band's very name for all time, paid off big time for Bad Company. Their debut album went to the top of the U.S. Billboard 200 chart, very quickly sold 5 times platinum, and the band were an immediate and massive global success. Paul Rodgers, of course, is widely regarded as one of rock's very best singers, with a voice that's influenced many other musicians, including Sammy Hagar, who refers to him as his hero. and Alice Cooper, who gave him the nickname The Voice because, as he puts it, he's just one of the best singers out there. With the release of their debut, Bad Company tapped into a demand for straight-ahead blues-based hard rock, quickly becoming an essential prototype for other bands that would come after, including Guns N' Roses. This song, the title track to their debut, has been used in TV shows and movies, and Stephen King quoted lyrics from it in his Dark Tower series. They've sold over 40 million albums worldwide. Yet, until 2025, induction into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame eluded the band for years, much to the consternation of fans and musical luminaries like Robert Plant, to whom Rodgers is often compared when it comes to powerhouse lead vocalists in classic rock. The song Bad Company is more than a track. It's a definitive statement that taps into a universal archetype of self-definition and rebellion, delivered with an authenticity and raw power that remains timeless. It stands as a monumental achievement, proving that simplicity, when executed with mastery and conviction, can achieve a profound and lasting impact on the landscape of popular music. And both this song and Bad Company have earned their essential place in classic rock. So, what did those early naysayers who didn't like the name Bad Company for the band suggest that they be called? The Heavy Metal Kids. Just doesn't have quite the same ring to it, does it? On this, we can be glad that Paul Rodgers stuck to his guns. So what other supergroups come to mind when you think of classic rock? Something to think about. Until next time. I'm Janda, and this has been Behind the Song. If you like this episode, give it a like and subscribe to the channel. Special thanks as always to Christian Lane for the music you hear on these podcast episodes. You can find me on the air at 97.1 FM The Drive in Chicago and at WDRV.com. On the way, much more classic rock and roll.